Alright, today we're taking it outside of the game and we are doing another tier list video. Now that enough time has passed for nerfs and we've had enough time to test all the new weapons, I can now do a fair ranking on every item in the game. Now, if you just clicked on this video and you just wanted to see the tier lists without any explanations, I'm going to show you every tier list right now and you can pause and read it. So here is the weapon tier list, here's the perk tier list, here's the cosmetic tier list, here's the pets tier list, and here's the standalone passive tier list. And here's the passive synergy tier list. And lastly, here's the trait tier list. But before we begin the video, I am doing a huge giveaway to celebrate the huge growth my channel has had. Every day during the month of December, there is a new opportunity to win a giveaway. And that giveaway includes a weapon slot, a weapon bundle, or you can pick a game pass from another game with a gifting mechanic that has a value of at least 350 Robux. To enter, all you have to do is like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment on this video with the Roblox username so I can tell you that you won the giveaway. So don't miss every single video in December, as each video is a new opportunity to win a new giveaway. But now it's time to choose our giveaway winner from yesterday's video. So we're just going to copy this link and pick a random YouTube comment, no replies, no duplicates, and let's see who wins. There's a lot of comments on this video. We're going to pick our winner, and Bruno V4J Sigma Boy Minecraft 202 is the winner. So first, let's begin with the weapons. Alright, first in D tier, we've got the baseball, the axes, and the guitar weapon right here. These are just the worst weapons in the game, and you do not want to bring these to any game mode whatsoever. You want to at least get any other weapon except these weapons right here. I will say though, with high level gear, axes can do some pretty good damage. But that's not realistic, so that's why it's just going to sit in D tier. Now in C tier, I've got the pure hand, and I've got the dagger weapon. I know that the dagger is a mythic limited weapon, but unfortunately its clones are just way too weak. Even with low level gear, even with high level gear, the clones are not strong at all. And if you want to argue using daggers as a utility weapon, there are weapons that can do the exact same utility that it's good at in a lot more efficient way. Using its clones as a distraction against zombies isn't a good strategy when you could just bring a weapon that'll just kill the zombie anyway. So why would you need to distract the zombie? And the pure hand weapon is a decent weapon to bring. Obviously nothing too great, but I mean at least it's good enough to bring. Now in B tier, I've got the dual guns, I've got the priest, and I've got the zombie claws. If I could find them, here they are, the zombie claws. Now we are getting into some higher tier weapons that can be campaign on nightmare mode. The zombie claws is decent. The only great thing about zombie claws is its third skill giving you strength too. That's what makes it really good for a support weapon. The priest is not that bad, especially if you've got teammates who always take lots of damage. But its DPS is alright. It's definitely better DPS than these two weapons right here. But it's really carried by its first move since it does so much damage and the cooldown is pretty good. But by far the best DPS is going to be the dual guns. The reason why the dual guns has such high DPS is because its scaling for some reason is really high. And on top of that, its cooldowns are really low. So when you get cosmetics or pets that improve your skill damage, you're able to do so much more damage with really spammy skills. And to top it all off, I just made a video yesterday that uses the dual guns to help me beat the Joker raid boss. So the dual guns is definitely an amazing weapon. Of course, its DPS is nothing to write home about compared to A tier and above, but it's still a great weapon. Now moving on to A tier, this is going to be our most packed tier. But in order, we've got the chainsaw, we've got the ghost, we've got sledgehammer, then we've got great sword. Where is it? Here we go. We got great sword right here, and then we've got katana, and then we've got anchor, and then we got scissors, and then we got the hand fans weapon. So basically A tier is full of basically all the mythic level weapons in the game. They're all pretty similar in strength to each other, but we'll go bottom to top with how strong they are. Now the hand fans is definitely the weakest among all these weapons right here, but its range is still really good to bring for a hell mode on campaign, and it's good to keep away from the zombies if you're trying to do endless. Now next up is the scissors. Now the scissors has great DPS, but it does lack in range in doing any other game mode, but I definitely want to honor the scissors for having great DPS and good M1s for beginners. Now the anchor weapon is really good for utility for giving you a lot of health, but its damage and range is really good with its second move. Its cooldown is really fast, so you can spam it super well, and on top of that, if you bring anchor to 100 mastery, it has one of the best 100 mastery moves for a mythic. It scales really high and it has amazing range, and its cooldown isn't that long either. Now next up is the katana. The katana has high tick damage and medium range, so it's a decent mid-ranged weapon to bring for all kinds of game modes. It's definitely not the best, but it's definitely just good enough to bring. Now next up is the greatsword. The greatsword may have smaller range than katana, but it definitely beats it when it comes to cooldowns and when it comes to straight DPS. And next up is the sledgehammer. The sledgehammer is very very similar in strength compared to the greatsword, but it does have one of the strongest M1s in the entire game. Personally, I switch around sledgehammer and greatsword because they're very similar weapons to me, but this week I'm just gonna put sledgehammer above just because I feel like it. And next up, we've got Ghost. Ghost, unfortunately, is the worst divine in the game. Its attack animations are just too slow, its cooldowns are way too long, and all that for having really weak damage and really low tick damage. Ghost is definitely one of the worst divines in the game. This weapon desperately needs a buff. It definitely needs faster cooldowns, or it needs to up its damage for it to actually be useful. Now, its range is decent, but for it to be relevant, it needs to have faster attack animation so that attack actually comes out before you're damaged by enemies. And the highest of A tier is Chainsaw. Now, I will say that Chainsaw is really only great in campaigns or raids, but with the right cosmetics, using its high tick damage, it is easily the strongest weapon in A tier right here. This is especially great for beginners since it's just a legendary weapon. If you are a beginner, I definitely recommend picking up the Chainsaw if you're trying to solo some raid bosses. And oops, my bad, I forgot to rank the original Reaper Scythe weapon. I will say though, I personally do not own this weapon, and I ranked this weapon in the same tier as last week's tier list video. And in that video, nobody really objected my opinion on this, so I'm just gonna keep it right here for now. But if anybody wants to debate if this weapon should be higher or lower, please let me know. I will read your comments on this weapon, and I may change its tier based on facts if you have any arguments if this weapon should be higher or lower. Now next up, we've got all the S tier weapons, and in S tier we're gonna have the Reaper Scythe, we're gonna have the bow weapon, we're gonna have Halloween sword, we're gonna have Spinal Blade, and we're gonna have shoes. Now these weapons could be basically everything in the game no matter what. These weapons can take on Reaper Rage, these weapons can take on Hell Mode, these weapons can take on payloads, these weapons can do anything, and they're the best at it. The only thing they can't really take on is the new Joker boss, but they are still great and amazing weapons. Starting with the shoes will always be one of the best weapons when it comes to doing campaigns in the game. Unless they entirely rework this weapon, it's always just gonna have the best range and the best moves since it's basically got 3 moves with near infinite range. Now it is the weakest in terms of DPS in S tier, that's why I put it here, but the shoes are still a great weapon. And next up, we've got the Spinal Blade. Now the Spinal Blade is alright in payloads and in Hell Mode, but it is definitely very powerful when it comes to doing raids. The Spinal Blade is the 3rd strongest weapon in terms of DPS in this entire tier right here. The only thing better than it is the Halloween sword and the Reaper Scythe. Its damage is all in its V move, and especially when you max out its cooldowns, since it has long attack animations, you're always going to be doing tons of high damage with Spinal Blade. The only reason that all these weapons are above Spinal Blade is because they have great DPS on top of having great uses outside of raid modes. And next up is the Halloween sword. On top of having better DPS than Spinal Blade, it is also a great weapon when it comes to payloads, and it's also pretty decent when it comes to campaigns on Hell Mode. The cooldown on its first move is super low, it has high tick damage with its B move, and its range is excellent. Its attack animations are really fast, so this weapon feels super snappy. I love the Halloween sword. But better than the Halloween sword is the bow. Now if I only had one weapon to pick out of every weapon on this tier list right here, besides these 2 weapons, I would choose the bow weapon. The reason why I choose bow is because it's one of the best weapons in every single game mode. Its DPS is decent enough to take the raids, its power and range is unmatched when it comes to bringing it on Hell Mode on campaign, and it is definitely the best weapon when it comes to doing payloads. Having really long ranged attacks in your M1s makes it excellent in payloads. Because in payloads, damage doesn't matter, but attack speed and range matters in payloads more than anything, and the bow is the best at it. On top of that, it is a very obtainable weapon for beginners. You only have to beat the Shogun raid boss, which is getting easier and easier to beat with every new update. But next up, we've got the Reaper Scythe. Now the reason why I put the Reaper Scythe above the bow is because it is the best in terms of DPS when it comes to S tier. On top of it, it is also the 2nd best weapon to bring the payloads. Putting down a damage zone while you're collecting tires so no zombies touch your bus is super OP. On top of that, the damage zone makes it really great for doing Hell modes, and it has really amazing range. Now of course this is a harder weapon to obtain, but it is definitely worth it, and it'll stand the test of time because it'll always be a great weapon for payloads and for campaigns. Now lastly, we've got the meta tier, and in order I'm doing the Wizzard and the Joker weapon. Now I will say this, Joker is way better at DPS than Wizzard, but outside of doing raids, the Joker weapon sucks. Its B move is one of the worst moves in the entire game. On top of that, its range kind of sucks. Now it does have great M1s like the Wizzard, which makes it alright in payload, but when it comes to campaign, the Joker weapon sucks. I mean, I would rather bring Spinal Blade before I bring Joker to campaign runs. And that's why I'm putting Wizzard as the best overall weapon in the game. Like I mentioned, Joker is better at DPS than Wizzard, but the Wizzard is still strong enough to solo the Joker boss. On top of that, the Wizzard is the best weapon in the game when it comes to Hell mode. Like I mentioned with the Reaper Scythe, having a damage zone put down is really OP. But having an entire damage zone bubble around your character and having it stay as you move is even more OP. Since you could just use its first move and then run really fast and kill every zombie nearby you. This makes Wizzard the best when it comes to campaign. Now it is pretty decent when it comes to payload. The move doesn't last that long for it to remain as you're collecting tires. But if we were to add up its usefulness when it comes to DPS and usefulness in other game modes, it is definitely one of the best weapons in the game. But next up, we've got the perks. Now in C tier, we've got the Flame perk. This is definitely the worst perk in the entire game. I would get any perk except for Flame. This is because damage over time in the game is really useless and sucks so bad. The damage just simply isn't high enough that it's just faster if you were to just M1 the zombies, even with vanilla stats. Now next up in B tier, we've got the Reduced Damage perk and the Berserker perk. Now these are all right. I definitely do not recommend bringing these. Reduced damage is definitely more useful than Berserker, but I mean, I guess they're free stats that are relevant in certain cases. And in A tier in order, we've got the Healer perk, we've got the Adrenaline perk, we've got the Last Hope perk, and we've got the new Joker perk. The new Joker perk sucks. It's so disappointing for being the very first Divine perk. If you don't know what it does, it gives you any of the stat bonuses at level 5 at random every 60 seconds for 15 seconds. Now this blows, dude, because it is not consistent whatsoever. The only thing useful from the Joker perk is if you get strength 5, but the chance of that happening is pretty rare. And consistency matters in this game so much. You want to develop a strategy that works every single time. You don't want to rely on pure luck from a perk. On top of that, it's a Divine perk. This is a hard perk to get, and you don't really get that much out of it. I would rather run Last Hope before Joker, because at least it's giving me consistent damage every now and then. So do not get the Joker perk. It is not worth it whatsoever. It is just barely useful. And next up, we've got Last Hope. Now this is a great perk for beginners who struggle with killing the boss on Nightmare mode on campaign, but its usefulness kind of stops right there. The damage it deals isn't really that high, and the cooldown for this perk is really long. I think it's the longest cooldown perk in the game. And next up, we've got the Adrenaline perk. Now this may seem like a random useless perk, but I personally use the Adrenaline perk when it comes to doing payloads. The reason why I use the Adrenaline perk is because when you hit a checkpoint in payloads, you can essentially get a stat boost. And you can also get that same stat boost from the perks right here. So it kind of makes every perk kind of useless when you're bringing it to payloads. But the only stat boost it doesn't give you is attack speed. Now attack speed is a relatively useful stat in payloads as you're able to damage the zombies a lot faster. But its usefulness does stop at payload. Now the best perk in A tier is the Healer perk. Now the reason why I have the Healer perk better than all these perks right here is that it's consistent. It is great for beginners in every single mode. Now if you're a beginner and you're doing Nightmare campaign runs and you're doing Endless and you're doing payloads and you're doing the Shogun raid boss, the Healer perk will be helpful to you since you are a beginner. Since you are new to the game, it is a lot easier for you to take damage, and having the Healer perk just makes mistakes sting a lot less. Now next up, we've got S tier, and in S tier, we've got the Vampire perk and the Damage Shield perk. Now just like I said for the Healer perk, the Damage Shield perk is great for beginners who take a lot of damage, but in my opinion, the Vampire perk is a lot more useful in survivability because you get lifesteal. The only thing that Damage Shield is protecting you from is getting one shot, and it is the best perk when it comes to doing Endless, so that's why it's in S tier. But the Vampire perk is definitely way better than the Damage Shield perk. This is because this is the best perk when it comes to doing campaign on any difficulty, including Hell mode. On top of that, just like I said, even if you're doing the Reaper raid boss, the Vampire perk is a great perk if you struggle with dying against the boss. Its usefulness does stop if you're doing the Joker raid boss, and it's not that great in payloads. I mean, you get a speed buff, but if you hit a checkpoint and you get a speed buff from that, but the Vampire perk is essentially useless besides lifesteal. But it is without a doubt the best S tier perk. Now lastly, we've got the Meta tier, and in order, we've got the Critical perk, the Undead perk, and the Double Damage perk. Now if you don't have most of the cosmetics in the game, and specifically if you don't have the Red Blade cosmetic, the Double Damage perk is going to be the best perk when it comes to raw DPS. This is the best when it comes to doing Reaper raids and Shogun raids, and it's a decent substitute if you're doing the Joker raids. But the reason why the perk that literally says damage on it is weaker than these other perks is all because of Red Blade. Red Blade is already giving you strength 5 and double damage only gives you strength 2. So effectively double damage is not only useless, but it is gapped by a whole different cosmetic. So since we're already buffed by our strength stat, we want to buff our DPS in other ways. And that's why the Undead perk and the Critical perk is better than the double damage perk if you have most of the cosmetics in the game. Now, if you didn't upgrade your weapons in the cooldown stat, or you didn't upgrade your weapons at all, that's when the undead perk is going to be a lot better. The undead perk is going to let you spam your skills a lot more often, and it's going to be really easy to activate this perk over and over, so effectively you have reduced cooldown forever. But if you're like me and many other builds where you already invested all your upgrades on maxing out your cooldown, that's when the critical perk is going to be the best. This is because if you max out cooldowns on a weapon in their upgrades, their cooldowns are already going to be so fast that you don't really need more cooldown. It's going to be effectively useless. So the next best perk that's going to upgrade your damage is going to be the critical perk. And increasing your crit chance by 15% for 60 seconds is no joke. You can definitely notice the damage change in the critical perk right here. Now, these two are interchangeable. Personally, the critical perk is going to be better because most of my weapons already have faster cooldowns. But if you have a different build, the undead perk is going to be better than the critical perk right here. But moving on from the perk tier list, we've got the cosmetic tier list. Starting in F tier, we've got the skull ring, we've got the clown nose, we got the lollipop, and we've got the scarf. Now, the reason why these cosmetics are in F tier is because there are literally better versions of these cosmetics that exist that these are effectively useless to bring. Of course, the skull ring is going to be the best of all of them because it gives you 2 attack. But other than that, these all suck. Now into D tier, we've got the cross necklace, the skeleton mask, and the grizzly boots. This is just like F tier, but the stats are a little bit better. But still, there are cosmetics that exist that have the exact same stats as this cosmetic. But still, there are just more powerful versions of these cosmetics right here. They just suck, to be honest. Now in C tier, we've got the ring of faith, and we've got the dragon boots. Just like F tier and D tier, these are just worse versions of other cosmetics. But at least these cosmetics give you a little bit of DPS. But they're still not worth it to run, in my opinion. Now we've got our most packed tier, B tier. And in order, we've got the eye patch, the Reaper's hat, the Oni mask, the comedy mask, the eyeball necklace, and the magician's hat. Now there is one stat that every cosmetic in this tier list have in common, and that's that they all give you 5 attack. So what makes each one better than the other is because of small things like health or attack speed. But what makes Pirate Eye Patch and Reaper's Hat the best is because they also give you 5% coin bonus. But when it comes to actually obtaining these cosmetics, I do not recommend getting any of them except for the Reaper's Hat, since it's a drop chance item that you don't really have to spend money or spend extra time. If you just happen to get it from doing a Reaper raid boss, it's a nice little bonus to have an accessory that gives you extra coin bonus. But now moving on to A tier, we've got the Jester Staff, we got the Reaper Scarf, we got the Thailand cosmetic, we got the Devil Horns, and we've got the Coffin Backpack. Now all these cosmetics in A tier are great cosmetics to bring if you're trying to solo the Reaper raid boss. Besides Coffin Backpack, using a combination of any of these 2 accessories right here will yield you great results. The only reason why Coffin Backpack is here is because it's one of the best accessories when it comes to grinding. And the brand new Jester Staff is definitely the best cosmetic in A tier right here. So if you happen to get carried in a Joker raid and you're trying to solo some Reaper raids, getting the Jester Staff will definitely help you. Now moving on to S tier, we've got the Pumpkin Head, we've got the Killer Face, we've got the Pirate Hat, and we've got the Jester Hat. The Jester Hat may be a shock, as many people are saying this is the best cosmetic, especially considering that this costs 5.5 thousand Joker coins, nearly double of the Joker weapon. But this hat sucks. The reason why this hat sucks is because its base normal stats is pretty lame, especially when factoring the price. Now the reason why people are praising this cosmetic is because it has a 10% chance to give you double damage on any move. Now that blows. Just like how I said for the Joker perk, you want consistency in this game more than anything. And if you have a strategy where there's a 10% chance where you want a move to do double damage, then that is not a good strategy whatsoever. Especially if you're timing your attacks to do your 5th and 10th attack, that chance just got lowered since you want a specific attack to do 10% damage. So if you're currently grinding for the Jester Hat, it is not worth it. You will not see a huge jump in your DPS. The only item that's worth going for in the Jester raid shop is going to be the new Joker weapon. Now, better than the Jester Hat is the Pirate Hat. Compared to every cosmetic you have to craft in the game, the Pirate Hat is worth crafting. Especially if you didn't play the Halloween raid boss and you weren't able to get the Pumpkinhead cosmetic, the Pirate Hat is a great substitute. The stats are very similar, they're just off by 5%, but the damage is relatively the same. And next up is the Killer Face cosmetic. Right now, I definitely recommend grinding your Battle Pass quests. I recommend doing all your weekly quests and doing all your daily quests. Because when you hit level 50, you'll finally be able to get the Killer Face cosmetic, which is one of the best free-to-play cosmetics to get in the game. Now, I know that the Battle Pass quests are tedious, but it's not hard, and you don't have to spend money or grind a certain mode over and over. So obtaining this cosmetic is definitely so worth it. And the fact that it gives you 5% coin bonus is a nice little cherry on top for this amazing cosmetic. Now the best and strongest cosmetic in S tier is gonna be the Pumpkinhead cosmetic. High crit damage, high crit chance, high flat damage. It is just a great all-round cosmetic to bring. But now next up we've got the meta tier, the best cosmetics in the game. And in order we have Red Blade, the Jester Rings, the Jester Mask, and the Boombox. These are the best in the game when it comes to dealing damage or when it comes to grinding money. Not only does Boombox give you insane coin bonus, but it also has a nice effect where it prevents you from getting one shot. Now personally, when I was first taking on the Joker raids, this was an amazing cosmetic to have because every raid I did, I beat them because I wasn't getting one shot in every single life. So if you struggle with surviving, the Boombox is worth it because not only does it help you survive, but it's also going to help you grind even more coins. And next up is the Jester Mask. On top of having one of the best coin bonuses in the game, it also gives you really great DPS stats. But since its coin bonus is so amazing, it is useful in many modes outside of just doing raids. But the two best cosmetics in the game when it comes to raw DPS is going to be the Jester Rings and the Red Blade cosmetic. The Jester Ring is just going to give you really high flat damage. On top of that, it's going to give you insane crit chance, having you near 100% crit rate build. And lastly, we've got the best DPS cosmetic in the game, the Red Blade cosmetic. High flat damage, high crit damage, and giving you strength 5. This is just easily the best and strongest cosmetic in the game. But next up, we've got the pet tier list. And in F tier, we've got the Pauker pet, we've got the Tiger pet, we've got the Dragon pet, the Raven pet, the Cat pet, and the Dog pet. Now I've got a lot to discuss here. First of all, let me mention that the Pauker pet is currently bugged. So right now it's currently not working, and that's why it's in F tier. Is just that the pet just doesn't work. But if the pet does all the stats that it actually does, it probably would be high S tier. But since it doesn't work, it's gonna sit in F tier right now. It'll definitely change once it's finally fixed. But next up, let me discuss the two biggest scams in the entire game, and that is drop chance and damage over time effects. Just like I mentioned for the flame perk, damage over time just absolutely sucks, so that makes Tiger useless and that makes Dragon useless. Especially since it's a chance to activate damage over time and the damage over time isn't even good. But an even bigger scam than damage over time is drop chance effects. Currently, these drop chance pets do little to no effect to anything. They don't help you get more payload coins, they don't help you get more raid coins, they don't help you get more lucky spins, they don't help you get more traits. They barely do anything to actually help you. They are not worth it. Do not spin on this pet pack. Do not waste any of your money gambling trying to get these pets right here. I did it. I lost 11 million coins in this game to try and get all these pets right here. And this is when the game just started too. But personally, these pets are my biggest hatred against this game. I absolutely hate the drop chance effect pets because there are always new players coming in thinking that they will actually help them. But in reality, they actually suck. I do my best to try and let every new player know that these pets are not worth it. Do not even look in their direction. But next up, we've got D tier. And in D tier, we've got the shark pet, the pig pet, the rabbit pet, and the dinosaur pet. Now all these pets in D tier at least give you some stats, but they're definitely not worth it. And unfortunately, the dinosaur pet gives you a debuff, so it's definitely not worth running him. But I would still run dinosaur over all these pets that don't work or don't do anything. Now next up is C tier. Now these pets are slightly more useful. I still don't recommend obtaining them, but these pets are going to be the goat pet, the crocodile pet, the hamster pet, and the porcupine pet. Now they give you small relevant stats. Like these two pets give you walk speed, and this gives you crit chance, and this lets you reflect damage. But there are better pets that do what all these pets do, but they are slightly relevant. Just know that they're not worth it to obtain though. Now in B tier, we're going to find better pets, especially better pets for beginners, and that's going to be the deer pet, the phoenix pet, and the worm pet. These are from the mythic pet pack, and to be honest with you, I don't recommend spinning on that pet pack, but if you happen to own these pets and you're still a beginner, these are great beginner options. The deer pet is great for survivability. The phoenix pet is not only a great pet for beginners, but if it's your first time doing hell mode, since you only have one life and you can die very easily, bringing phoenix is not a bad idea to get a taste of hell mode. And the worm pet is amazing for beginners because it doubles your vanilla player health. So once again, I do not recommend trying to obtain these pets, but if you already own them and you're still relatively new to the game, they're still great pets. Now next up is A tier, and in A tier we've got the bat pet, the white pigeon pet, the frog pet, and the octopus pet. Now all these pets slightly increase your DPS. I will say I personally don't own the octopus, but I don't see anybody going crazy about octopus. And everybody who talks about octopus says it kind of sucks. So that's why it's in the low A tier, since it does buff your DPS, but it's just the worst pet at doing it. Now the frog pet is actually a great pet since it's really easy to obtain, and it comes from a relevant pet pack, and it gives you 15 walk speed, so this is one of the best pets for beginners. But the white pigeon and the bat pet are better at DPS than the frog. I will mention that the white pigeon is unobtainable at the moment, and the bat pet is definitely not worth it to get. It is a 1% chance to pull this this pet and he is not worth it whatsoever. The little amount of damage he gives you compared to every pet right here is really sad to see. Even the frog competes the bat pet for damage, and it is the most common pet in its pet pack. And I don't care if that pet pack costs more money, that shouldn't make any sense. So the only pet that's actually worth getting right here is the frog, and it's really easy to get anyways if you're spinning on this pet pack, but I don't recommend getting any of these other pets right here. Now next up we've got S tier, and in S tier we've got the spooky cat pet, the spirit fire pet, the reaper pet, the spooky ghost pet, and the penguin pet. Now all these pets are excellent when it comes to increasing your DPS. On top of that, they also have great utility. The penguin is not bad for healing, but it does give you coin bonus and it does give you relative damage bonus. The spooky ghost pet is one of the best pets in the game when it comes to grinding money, but you can't obtain this pet anymore, so that's the hard part about it. And the reaper pet is a nice pet to obtain if you are a new player looking to increase your DPS. If you're doing reaper raid bosses and you pull the reaper and you have all these pets below, definitely worth it to substitute it for doing high DPS. I just don't recommend bringing this pet when it comes to payloads. And next up we've got the spirit fire pet and the spooky cat pet. To be honest with you, these two pets are tied for number 1 in S tier. You can switch them around. Personally, I enjoy the spooky cat pet better. This is because the spooky cat pet gives you lots of crit chance, but they both provide great healing and great DPS. Spirit fire is better at healing though, so that's why they're very similar when it comes to being the best pet in S tier. Obviously, spooky cat is unobtainable, so if you can't get it, the spirit fire is going to be the best pet when it comes to the S tier. Now lastly, we've got the meta tier, and in order we've got the cosplay pet, the P-Fresh pet, and the supercar pet. The supercar pet, easily the best item in the game when it comes to grinding resources. Doubling your traits or lucky spends helps your grind so much. It is so useful. And on top of that, it gives you insane walk speed and lots of coin bonus. You definitely want to get the supercar pet. It is so worth it. And next up are the P-Fresh pet and the cosplay pet. These two pets synergize so well together because they help you get so much DPS. Now the P-Fresh pet is a hard pet to obtain, especially from its expensive pet pack, but it is definitely worth it when you're trying to max out your DPS. And I know the cosplay pet is even harder to obtain from the payloads, but it does give you an insane damage increase. And if I were to pick between buying the cosplay pet or the red blade pet, I would recommend getting the cosplay pet. You see a bigger jump in damage from the cosplay pet. The amount of DPS that's increased from being a cosplay pet is absolutely insane. Alright, but next up we've got the passives tier list. In this tier list, I'm going to be ranking the passives standalone, and I'm not going to take into account the synergies. So first up, we've got C tier, and in C tier, we've got HP and damage reduction. These two are great passives for beginners, especially since they're a lot easier to obtain, but they don't have crazy utility or increase your DPS too much, but at least it's free stats. And in B tier, we've got speed and attack speed. Attack speed passive is amazing to bring in payloads, but I basically don't use it outside of payloads. And the speed passive is obviously going to be one of the best passives to bring when it comes to doing campaign, because the faster you can get to the rooms, the faster you can clear it, the faster you can grind resources. And in A tier, we've got the crit perk and the critical damage perk. These two passives just help boost your damage. If you're really trying to cap every end of your DPS, they're decent passives to bring. I would at least recommend the cooldown reduction passive better than these two though. And that's why in S tier, we've got the attack passive and the cooldown reduction passive. Reducing your cooldown so you're able to spam your moves is absolutely amazing, especially for beginners since this passive is a lot easier to obtain. Now the attack passive is an alright passive. It only gives you 3 flat damage. I think that number is so low since it's such a rare passive, but I mean it's free stats and it's damage stats, so you can't really complain too much except for the fact that it's so rare. And lastly, we've got meta tier, and we've got the AP passive and the fortune passive. Obviously the passive with money on it is going to be the best passive in the game when it comes to grinding money, and the AP passive is strictly better when it comes to raw DPS. You see a way bigger boost in damage from the AP passive than the attack passive right here. So let's move on to the passive synergies. In A tier, we've got the last stand fatter synergy with the attack and AP synergy. Now this is the worst synergy in the game because unfortunately it's pretty inconsistent to try and maintain. I would recommend getting better synergies than last stand fighter. And in S tier, we've got healthy power with AP and HP passive, and we've got swift cast with the cooldown reduction and speed passive. Now for beginners, swift cast is probably going to be your favorite synergy. If you don't have any other passives, swift cast synergy is going to be the best in every single game mode. For campaign runs, you want to have faster walk speed so you can complete it faster. For payloads, you want to be able to spam your skills a lot faster, and you want to keep up with the speed of your boss. And in raids, if the boss is running away like the Reaper boss, having speed is not a bad idea, but what will really shine in DPS is the cooldown reduction passive, letting you spam your skills a lot easier. But in terms of straight DPS, the healthy power synergy is going to be a lot better. All you have to do is be above 80% health, and if you have lifesteal pets or cosmetics, or you have healing pets or cosmetics, this is going to be really easy to obtain. It's just a free stat boost. But the best synergies in the game are going to be the Berserker synergy and the Treasure Hunter synergy. Obviously, this is the best synergy in the game when it comes to grinding money. And when it comes to raw DPS, there's nothing better than the Berserker synergy. Especially if you combo this with the Cosplay pet and the P-Fresh pet, every single one of your 5th attacks is going to do ludicrous damage. Now, moving on from the passives, we've got a new tier that wasn't in last week's tier list, and that's going to be the trait tier list. Now, first I'll mention that I know I didn't include Focus 1 or 2, or Power 1 and 2, or Agility 1 and 2. I excluded those traits because there are literally better versions of those traits that exist, so I may as well just rank those. So in C tier, the worst traits in the game are definitely going to be Agility and Power. Power only increases your M1 damage, and increasing your attack speed by only 6% is barely noticeable. There are other traits that also have this stat increase, so there is literally no reason to bring these. Now in B tier, we've got Crit Chance, we've got Intelligence, we've got Fortune, and we've got Beast. Now these are still relatively useless, but they're still better than the tier below. Increasing your critical chance is actually not that bad. It's pretty decent when it comes to DPS. I do think Focus 3 is better though. And when it comes to Intelligent and Fortune, I mean, at least it's a stat boost that you can see. Nothing that crazy though. And finally, we have Beast, which actually I meant to put Beast right here. Beast is literally just a worse version of Power, and you could barely notice the increase in attack speed. This is just easily one of the worst traits in the game. It's pretty frustrating to say that, especially since this trait is a lot rarer than all these other ones. But next up, we've got A tier, and sitting alone in A tier is going to be Focus 3. Now, if you're an early player, you don't want to invest too many traits, but you still want to get decent DPS, just go for Focus 3. You will see the biggest jump in DPS from Focus 3. On top of that, it's not as rare as all these other traits where it may require you to have hundreds and hundreds of traits to try and spin for. So a decent beginner pick is going to be Focus 3. Now in S tier, we've got Critical Damage, Midas, and the Prodigy trait. Starting with Prodigy, it is definitely the worst out of these three right here. This is because Prodigy is just Focus 3, but with a little bit of extra stats. And on top of that, when it comes to grinding, both of these traits right here give you faster walking speed, making it worse than these two traits in every facet. Now next up, we've got the Midas trait. Now I'll be honest, I used this trait before they shadow buffed the Midas. Now, I don't know if you're aware of the shadow buff, but they gave it plus 20 skill damage. But I will say, if you're fighting any boss that isn't Joker, the Midas trait will actually be better than critical damage. And when I was doing testing with Midas, I didn't really see a coin increase, so I'm not entirely sure if that's bugged or not. But for my own knowledge, I'll keep it in S tier, a great damage boost for beginners. And if the money grinding aspect actually works, it's pretty useful in that aspect too. But the best trait in S tier is going to be the critical damage trait. Now I did mention that Midas is stronger for beginners, but if you're a late game player, you have high crit chance, and you already have so much crit damage implemented, you're going to see a bigger jump from DPS using critical damage instead of Midas. So when taking on the Joker raid boss, you definitely want to at least have critical damage. And this is also a great trait to bring when it comes to grinding, because it also gives you 10% movement speed. Now of course, lastly, in meta tier is obviously going to be the Yoriichi trait. This is just a better version of critical damage, dealing even more critical damage, giving you crit chance, giving you so much movement speed and so much skill damage. Obviously, this clears as the best trait in the game. It's that rare for a reason. I don't think there's much debate to say about the Yoriichi trait. Alright, but that's going to be it for the tier list of everything in Hunty Zombies. The last thing I'll quickly say is the tier list for the skill tree. The reason why I didn't make the tier list on the tier list maker is because I don't know how to take a picture of this. But in meta tier, we've got the crit tree and we've got the speed tree. The crit tree is going to be the best when it comes to damage, and the speed tree is going to be the best when it comes for grinding. And then S tier is going to be the attack tree. Still a great tree. I definitely don't recommend it though. And in B tier is going to be the defense tree. This is definitely the worst tree in the game. This is just not the kind of game where we need defense stats. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. Just remember that everything is just my opinion here, so please be respectful to me in the comments. And let me know if you agree or disagree with certain aspects of my tier list. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe, please.